Good day folks, Sean here from AR Photography. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Insta360 One RS that was just announced. This camera has a ton of new features and enhancements, and in today's video, we're going to go over everything that's new. Now, out of all the new features that they've added, probably one of the best things that they've done is they've made it completely backward compatible with existing hardware. That means if you own the original Insta360 One R, any of the components that you've purchased is completely compatible with this setup. Now, there are a few limitations, and we will talk about that here in a second. Now, to me, that is incredible that they've gone ahead and done that, making everything backward compatible and work with each other. Because if you've invested in batteries and chargers, perhaps the 1-inch mod, everything is just going to work together flawlessly. So all that money that you've spent on the original Insta360 One R is not wasted if you decide to upgrade. And the other nice thing about that is you don't have to go and buy the whole kit over again. You can buy each individual component and upgrade at your own pace. For example, you may want to start by purchasing the new core and that's all you want, or perhaps you just want one of the new upgraded batteries. So really nice that Insta360 has gone ahead and done that. So now I'm going to go over what's new, all the new features that have been added with the complete kit. Now I'm not quite sure what packages will be available on launch, but most likely they'll have the same basic packages that they had with the original Insta360 One R. For example, you can see here is the Twin Edition, and that comes with the core, the new 4K boost lens, a 360 lens, and the upgraded battery. And most likely they'll sell just the 4K version and perhaps one that has the 1-inch mod. And that's actually something that I want to touch base on before we get too far into things here. The 1-inch mod has not been changed, so you don't have to go ahead and upgrade it. And same with the 360 mod. The 360 mod that comes with the new camera is the exact same that came with the old camera. So if you are thinking of upgrading, you don't have to get the Twin Edition. You can just go ahead and get the 4K edition. So let's take a look at the new camera here and we'll talk about everything that's new. The first thing you're going to notice right away is it has a new frame. And this frame actually has quite a few features to it. First of all, the design of it is supposed to help dissipate heat, so the camera does not overheat quite as quickly. It has a new quick release mechanism. As you can see there, it's quite easy to get the camera out now and put back in. And definitely that is huge if you're a person who's going to be changing mods on the fly quite frequently. And of course, the camera can be inserted either way, and we'll talk about why that's important here in a minute. And another interesting thing that they've done here, and I don't know if you can see that on camera, but there is a wind foam screen built right into the top there that works with this microphone opening at the top. And that's one of the new features of the Insta360 One R is that it does have an extra microphone, and with the new algorithm and that windscreen, you should have better audio in most scenarios. So if we take a look at the camera itself here, we have the new 4K boost lens, we have the new upgraded core, and we have a new upgraded battery. This battery has 21% more capacity, so that's going to allow you to record longer. Let's go ahead and take things apart here. So let's start with the 4K boost lens. This is a 1/2-inch 48 megapixel sensor, so definitely an upgrade over the original. So with it, you can capture 48 megapixel photos, and due to the larger sensor, it's going to perform better in low light scenarios. And another feature of it, it's now going to support active HDR. So you're going to be able to record stunning HDR style videos with this new lens. Now on top of that, when used in conjunction with the new core, you'll be able to record 6K widescreen footage. Now the core has some nice new upgrades as well. It has a faster processor, and that new power allows for in-camera stabilization. You don't have to take your footage from the camera over to the Insta360 app or the desktop studio in order to get that nice flow state stabilization. It can all be done right on camera now, so you can just pull the memory card out and share it instantly. Now, of course, you can still process it in the app if you want some extra editing features, but it's not mandatory now when shooting 4K footage. On top of that, you do get 50% faster Wi-Fi transfers, which is a nice touch as well. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put it back together here just so I can show you some other new features that is included. One nice new feature is they have something called instant zoom. So you can see we have these two graphics here at the side. Now those aren't buttons that you press, but it just shows you where on the screen to press. For example, if we press down that bottom corner, you can see here we can now zoom in. And the nice thing about that is you can zoom while you're recording. So let me just show you that here. I'm going to hit record. Now I can press down there, and now you can see I'm zooming in while recording. So that is definitely a nice new feature. Now at the top here, you can see there's a Q. That stands for quick menu. That's something else that's new. If we click on it, you can see it brings us up to this new menu where it allows us to easily switch back and forth between the different modes. Now over here on my left-hand side, I have the original Insta360 One R, and I have the new upgraded model over here. So let's talk about the different components and compatibility and what you get if you decide just to upgrade one component. For example, with the original core, you can go ahead and buy just the new 4K boost lens. As you can see, It'll attach there with no problem, and your existing battery will work just fine. So what do you get if you upgrade just the 4K boost lens? Well, first of all, you get that new 1/2 inch 48 megapixel sensor. On top of that, you will have access to that new active HDR. Now, if you decide you just want to upgrade your core and you're going to use it with your existing 4K lens and your existing battery. So if you decide to upgrade just the core, you're going to get the new faster processor, better in-camera stabilization. You're going to be able to make use of that new 50% faster Wi-Fi transfer. You're also going to get access to the new quick menu, and you're going to be able to make use of that new instant zoom. And lastly, you get to benefit from that extra microphone and have better audio. Now, perhaps you just want a battery upgrade. You want that 21% more battery capacity. You can use the new improved batteries with your existing setup. As you can see, it just attaches there to the bottom. The batteries are generally the same size when it comes to footprint, but they are a little bit thicker, just slightly thicker. Now I just want to talk a little bit more about compatibility. As I mentioned already, if you do own the 1-inch mod, it is fully compatible and it fits nicely inside the new frame. But let's go ahead and we'll talk about some of the other accessories that you may already own if you're concerned whether they'll be compatible. First of all, if you own the boosted battery base, which is actually one of my favorites, as you can see there, it is fully compatible, fits on with no issue. The reason I like it is because it does have the built-in finger mounts that just fold out. That allows you to use the camera without a frame. I actually quite like it like that. If you own the battery charger, the dual battery charger that they sell, it is fully compatible with the new battery, and you can charge different types of batteries all at the same time. If you own the vertical battery from the original Insta360 One R, it is fully compatible, just like the original. Just pull that door off and then go ahead and attach the battery. Even that frame that holds it all together securely, everything works together perfectly. And if you own the quick reader that they sell for the One R, again, it is fully compatible. Now, I did mention earlier on that there are a few things that aren't quite compatible, but there are workarounds for them, and I'll just kind of explain that here. For example, if you've purchased third-party frames or cages, here I have a metal frame from Ulanzi. The problem is because this battery is a little bit thicker, it's no longer going to fit in there. But the workaround for that is all you have to do is remove the battery and use one of their smaller capacity batteries. Then it will go in and fit with no issue. So that's really the only thing that's not 100% compatible are the frames because of the size of the new battery. If you do want to use the new gear, the new core, the new lens with an older frame, you will have to use that lower capacity battery. So now that we've gone ahead and taken a look at the new hardware and talked about some of the new features, let's talk about how this camera performs. Now this is not a full review. I've only been able to use this camera for about a week and a half now. Before I make any type of full review, I like to use it for at least 30 days so I can really test it out and see how it works. But in the time that I have used it, I must say I'm quite impressed. The video quality is quite nice, lots of detail, good dynamic range. And for people who don't like to do a lot of post-processing, if you film in their vivid color profile, it actually looks really good. They do have a couple different profiles you can film in, including a flat profile and one that is a little bit more subdued. You can access all their color profiles from swiping over from the right-hand side. If you click over there in the corner, you can see we have vivid, standard, and then log. Now, as mentioned, you can use the in-camera stabilization, and a lot of the footage that I've already put up on the screen was shot in that mode. So that footage is straight off the memory card. There's been no extra processing in the Studio app or on the Studio desktop version, so it does a pretty good job keeping it stable. Now, when it comes to filming and the stabilization in 4K, there may be times where you want some extra options. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and show you here. If we click down at the bottom there, that brings us into where we can adjust our resolution and frame rate. You can see at the top it says flow state and it says post. So when you have it selected on flow state, that means all the stabilization is going to be done in camera, so you don't have to do anything. You can just take the content right off the memory card and use it. Now if you switch it over to post, that means you have to bring the footage over into the Insta360 app on your smartphone or tablet, or in the Insta360 Studio on a desktop. But the nice thing about using that option, it does give you more flexibility when editing. So for example here, I've gone ahead and launched the Insta360 app, and I've got a clip here that I filmed with that post mode enabled. And what that allows me to do now is I can go in and set the field of view after I've already recorded. On traditional action cameras, you set your field of view before you start recording, and once you've recorded, that's all you have. You can't change it. Whereas this, you can actually change on the fly while you're editing. And that can be beneficial just because you may film something in a narrow field of view, and later on when you're editing, you might think, geez, I wish that was a wide field of view. For example, right now this is a wide field of view, but we can change that over to linear. I'll kind of get rid of some of that curvature. We can set it to ultra wide. You can even set it to FPV if you're going to be mounting this on something like an FPV drone. So when it comes to editing, it's very flexible. On top of that, when you're using that post mode, you get access to the horizon leveling. Again, we use that same section, and we can set it to 45-degree horizon leveling. So anything over 45 degrees, that's when you'll start to get a little bit of movement. Or we can set it to 360-degree horizon leveling. That way, no matter which way the camera was when you were filming, that horizon is always going to stay perfectly level. And the fact that you can actually set that after you have filmed is actually pretty incredible. On a GoPro, if you want 360-degree horizon leveling, you have to use the max lens mod. And then of course, there are a ton of other editing features in the app. You can do freeze frame, speed ramping, you can add music, color correction. You can turn on Color Plus, which will give it a boost of color, almost kind of give it an HDR look. And then all you have to do is hit the export button, and from here you can set your resolution and it will export to your camera roll. So there will be times when you're filming with this camera where you want the in-camera stabilization, where everything is just ready to go on the memory card. But there's going to be times where you maybe want to do some more post-editing, and you're going to want that option enabled. Now when it comes to editing, my preferred method is on an iPad. But of course they do have that Insta360 Studio for a desktop if you do prefer to edit all your footage, 360 footage, right on your desktop. It's actually pretty easy to use and very intuitive. Now when it comes to the 6K widescreen footage, you do have to edit that on a computer in the desktop studio. But it's actually really interesting. Here's a clip here that I did process on my laptop earlier. I'm not sure of the exact aspect ratio. I will throw that up on the screen. But as you can see, it's a 6K footage and it gives you that kind of widescreen theatrical look. It's actually really nice, and when you run it through the Insta360 Studio, you do get that layer of stabilization on it as well. Now when it comes to using the 360 mod, I'm not going to go into too much detail in this video. I am going to make a separate video on it. But just to touch base on it for those who aren't quite aware of how these are used, or if you're a little apprehensive about them because you think they're a little bit gimmicky, I do agree on that. The whole 360 fad kind of came and went a few years ago, but a lot of people still like to film with them, including myself from time to time, because it allows you to get some really unique perspectives. On top of that, because you're capturing everything around you, you can go home later and frame your shot. For example, in this clip here, I had the Insta360 RS with the 360 mod attached. I had it mounted on the front handlebars of my e-bike. And as you can see, it kind of gives you an interesting look. It looks like there's a camera floating out in front of you. But the really nice thing is that you can change the perspective to whatever you want. So if you want a front-facing shot, you have that as well. You're not just capturing one angle. Of course, you can zoom out to kind of give you that tiny planet look, but it's really flexible in what you can do with it. The other thing you can do is change the aspect ratio if you're going to be exporting for something like TikTok or YouTube Shorts. With 360, you also get all the tracking features. For example, if I want to keep the camera completely fixed on myself there, I can just draw a box around it, and no matter what I do, which way I turn, which way the camera is, I'm always going to stay in center frame. So all in all, it's a great little upgrade. Now, one thing I do want to touch base on here as well is in the past, some people have discussed that it's kind of a pain to be switching these mods back and forth. When you're out in the field and you want to switch to 360, you have to take the whole camera apart. And I will agree with that. It's not something that I want to do too terribly often, but that new quick release option does help quite a bit. But you do have to look at it in a different way. If you have no interest in the 360 mod, you can purchase just the 4K camera kit and then just use it like a traditional action camera. You never have to take it apart. But the really nice part is, if you decide you do want to capture something a little bit more cinematic, you want to capture a nice sunset, perhaps a sunset time lapse, or even an overnight star lapse, you then have the flexibility to add the 1-inch mod to the setup, and that then expands the versatility of your camera. Again, you may not be wanting to switch back and forth all day with it, but for those times that you do want to upgrade to capture more detail, more light, you do have that option. And the other thing to think of, even if you don't buy any of that stuff and you're just using this as a dedicated action camera, because of the modular system, when they release new gear, you don't have to buy everything over again. Unlike something like a GoPro, when you buy the Hero 9 and then they release the Hero 10, you have to buy a whole new camera. With the Insta360 One R series, if they introduce a new feature, you don't have to buy the whole thing. You can just upgrade the core, upgrade the lens, or upgrade the battery. So when you look at it in that aspect, the modular system is quite brilliant. Well folks, that's basically my overview of the new Insta360 One RS. If you are interested in this camera, make sure you are subscribed to my channel, as I'll be making several videos over the coming weeks about it. We're going to dive in deeper to some of the new features. We're going to do a lot of comparisons against things like the Hero 10 Black, the DJI Action 2. We're going to compare them in different scenarios, and I'm going to be creating a lot of tutorials on how to make use of this camera. I want to thank you for watching. If you found this video had value, please consider hitting that thumbs up button. It's always greatly appreciated, and it helps others discover this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one.